It was a weekend that gave so much on so many fronts to the 360 agenda. Hawthorn laughs in the face of the amassing doubts and challenges, resuming its place at the pinnacle and shifting the questions west. The extremes of winning and losing, the all-of-club triumph staged by the Bombers and the stark failure from last year's minor premier Fremantle, and the extremes of coaching. We'll ask Nathan Buckley what the Pies did right at the death, and Chris Scott what the Cats did wrong. I'm Gerard Whateley, here's Mark Robinson. This Monday night, it's footy from all angles. Hello, Robbo.
Hello, Gerard.
Wasn't that a weekend of footy?
Oh, it was excellence from Friday night all the way through. Every team, every game, every team has just got stories coming out of them. And it's just fantastic for the competition.
There were so many threads that you can't even get them all in. We'll still be tidying up tomorrow night. There's so much out of it.
We're going all the way to Wednesday when the legends come in.
Yeah.
Ask me who my hero was.
Who was your hero?
My hero was Jack Martin. Now, when Jack Martin came to the club as a 17-year-old, as one of the prize 17-year-olds, everyone said, oh, this kid can play. He was built like you. You thought you could snap him in half. Right, remember when he first arrived?
Yes,
and when he got thrown on the ground, he did his shoulder, and you thought he might have broken every bone in his body. On Saturday evening, when this game was on, he was unbelievable. He took 11 marks, 3 contested, had 23, kicked 4 goals, sitting inside Tom Lynch, who made a mess of Zach Dawson. Zach did all right. Tommy could have kicked 10. So Zach actually kept him to 5. And everyone thought this, but Jack Martin, mate, that was the first time I saw him play, and saw him play well, and thought, my God, haven't you? I compared him today to a young Mickey O'Loughlin. Can do it in the air and can do it on the ground. And if he's anything like Mickey O, they've got a hell of a player.
It was a coming of age for him and a coming of age for the team.
You?
There's nobody hotter right now, and I reckon this bloke encapsulates what football is right this minute, and that's Jason Johannesson. He's a 23-year-old. He plays his 50th game this coming Sunday. He's had 62 disposals in 2 games, but he is just electrifying.
Look at this.
I mean, that's the moment of the weekend.
Yeah, I like the stop. Sorry to cut your hero off. Have a look at the kick. Just look at this, bang, and he just doesn't break. It's
surgically implanted.
It doesn't get better than that. Bob Murphy spoke about him last week, didn't he? He's just arrived as a fully aware player of his weapons. Yeah,
so he'll have votes in both games now. Whether he's got 6 Brownlow votes, or in the Herald Sun he's got 5, the ABC he's got 5. There's nobody who's arrived on the scene hotter. And that's a lot of what the Bulldogs are. I think he's played 49 games. Imagine what this looks like as he goes through his next 50 games.
What about his next 100 games? How's our 2 heroes? Apologise to Darcy Parish and Brody Grundy. They're 2 heroes, but we went with the nondescript.
There's a lot to go through. They'll bob up. Away we go. The top of the agenda, well, the competition has its benchmark reinstalled. That happened yesterday at the MCG. In the face of mounting questions and doubts being raised all over the place, the Hawks responded, and they remain until further notice the team to beat.
Hawthorn have become very good at being very good.
Everyone should be scared. That was phenomenal.
I mean, I read the papers, I know. But, I mean, every loss that we have, there's going to be an article saying, is it finished? Every time an older bloke has a bad game, it's going to be, is he finished? You know, we understand that that's the business we're in. When you're up for a long time, it just means you've got further to fall when the fall comes.
You know, we were pretty upset with the way we played last week, so for the guys to respond in that way, especially from the first bounce, was really pleasing. And I guess the other thing, you know, people have spoken about our injuries and our older guys, but gee, some of our younger guys stood up today.
It's a brutal game, and you open yourself up to criticism if you don't put in a consistent effort from week to week. And by and large, our group's been really strong in that regard for a long period of time, and we lowered our colours in in that way on Easter Monday, and we're pretty keen to make amends today.
We're doing everything in our power to make sure we're the best side we can be for as long as possible. We've been able to sustain it for quite a long period, but we don't feel like we're done yet.
We don't feel like we're done yet. We all feel exactly the same way.
Oh, absolutely. It was a really mature discussion about Hawthorn in the lead-up after what happened the week before and losing Hodgie, and there's challenges, and we discussed those challenges. I did a piece, others spoke about it. I mean, Sam Mitchell spoke about it after the game. He actually said at one stage, Sam, actually I was starting to worry, we might have had too many injuries, but it was just, they play with such authority, right? Who spoke about it last week, about premiership teams the next week just wanted to squash them into the ground?
Yep, like they did to Fremantle after that grand final.
Yes, we want to kill you, and anyway.
And make those scars permanent.
They get needled too. I mean, Cyril was poor the week before. And I don't care what anyone says. There's huge motivation in that. The embarrassment and the disappointment of playing poorly, it gets you up. No matter what you do, Jared, it gets you up. What you do, what I do, what everyone's sitting at home you do. If you don't perform well, you're motivated to do better. And a lot of them did. Isaac Smith, I think, had a really, really solid game. And we'll get on to West Coast in a second, but James Sisley's another one.
He's the one who grabbed me because
he was
the
poor.
week before he didn't look like he belonged.
No, he didn't.
And as we understand it, Alistair Clarkson went to him on Tuesday and assured him that he was playing. So no anxiety to fester throughout the week. You have your place, and here we go. And his cleverness, the way he read where the ball was going, he's not tall, but in that cliched way, he plays tall. And he made a name for himself in a way. And Jonathan O'Rourke gave the first signs of what he's going to be capable of.
Yeah. It was a really, really strong performance. Really strong.
Their kicking skills are undiminished.
Yep.
Their plan is still sound.
Yep.
And the MCG
is still the same size.
Good luck beating them, especially to the teams that don't play there very often.
What about West Coast, Jared?
I thought, plain and simple, they were terrible. They didn't bring the attitude that you expect from the vanquished grand finalists, so they didn't come and play their part in the contest, and they brought a knife to a gunfight. That won't work against Hawthorn at the MCG. There's 2 46-point defeats to tell us that and to tell them that. But you can't give a team 106 more uncontested possessions in a half. They didn't play in the first quarter because they didn't have the ball.
This is difficult to say. But at the end of that game, I asked myself, I just said it, but did Adam Simpson coach well? And I hate sitting here, Jared, saying a coach coached badly, because I'm not in the box. I don't know their plans. I don't know what he put in preparation. Did it work or not work? But can someone please tell me, so I can tell everyone else who follows football, why they don't tag Sam Mitchell, and why did Adam Simpson allow Josh Gibson to have 44 as a key free running back? Now, he said after the game he released a forward line player into the midfield to try and bolster that area and left Gibson by himself. But after 17 in the first quarter, tell me why they don't go, hang on, we've got to change this plan. We've got to change it. This ain't working. I'm going to ask Bucks and Chris Scott what's going on there, because I think fans, the supporters, need to find out, or we want to find out, why this is happening. We go to the game every week and people scream out, why doesn't someone play on Sam Mitchell? But no one's playing him. I think that's 7 consecutive 30-plus games. Okay?
It mightn't be possible to keep him below 30, but then there are thresholds beyond that.
Of influence.
Yeah.
It's influence. We've got to curb his influence. If people say to me, he is not of influence, well, I'll go to hell, because he's the guy who sits between centre-half-back and the centre and just spreads and decides what direction they're going, how fast they're going, and who's going to get the ball.
Yeah.
I'm just staggered. I'm not saying that Adam Simpson's a bad coach, but I wonder why he continues to do something when it's not working.
It's going to be hard to believe in the Eagles at the MCG on the evidence before us.
Do you think they're questioning that?
Oh, I think they would have to be.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
And if they're not, they've missed the message twice. I can't believe that. would be the case. We know what it looks like at Subiaco, but equally, we now know what it looks like on the MCG.
And they're not the first club to be haunted by Hawthorn.
Yes, which is a reasonable team to have as your nemesis. Jeremy McGovern spoke in Perth today on behalf of the Eagles.
A little bit surprised, yeah. Well, the way we go into the game, you know, we sort of, you want to play better than that. But, you know, it's surprising that we lost by that much when we have so much confidence going into most of our games, and we're always trying to improve and trying to learn from each game. So, you know, it is a little bit surprising.
Do you think that's right? Do you think there's a psychological thing?
There might be. Going by the last 2 times we've lost to them has been at the MCG. We obviously had the final here and we played really well. So, you know, going by that, you could probably say, yeah, there is. But, you know, I'm sure we're gonna go over it this week and have a really good look into it. It might be Hawks. I haven't really thought about it too much about the opponent. It's more of, you know, of us sort of thing and how we're playing. So, but yeah, going by what it is, what's happened probably.
I reckon players have been really honest this year in their interviews. That was a great interview because he had the courage to say, you know what, yeah, I think it might be psychological. And people will say the best part about dealing with a problem is recognising you've got a problem. And for him to come out and say, yep, we might have it. They're beating us up. So they can say, right, there's our starting point. Right, we all agree with that? Yep, no worries. So that'll be used as a position. So we go forward from here, everyone. That's our low point. We're gonna go forward.
Yep.
Good on him.
In the barrel of winners this week, there was rich pickings. Wouldn't have mattered what you brought out. You could have mounted a case, but there was surely nothing to match what happened with Essendon and the all-of-club triumph that spoke not only so enthusiastically for the day, but gave a picture of what the future might look like.
It's a big day for the Bombers, isn't it? Huge for the club, huge for the fans.
Just wrapped for the club. Wrapped for supporters who came out today and the players.
This could be a massive momentum changer in the history of the Essendon Football Club.
Not feeling sorry for ourselves, and we know we've got a massive job ahead of us, but it's been tough to get to this point, and it's a really hard-earned win.
Well done, Bombers. That's a great victory for your club.
Now that was an underdog story.
Oh, it was.
And it wasn't just that it happened, it was in the way that it happened. So those goals to Langford and Parrish and Danaher, it happened with only 4 of the notional top-up players. So this actually was conducted by Essendon players who will be part of the long-term future.
Yes. Every person involved in Essendon who's spoken about this, you can just feel the pride. As you know, Essendon fans, like all footy fans, all you want to see in your club, in your team that you follow every week, Jared, you want to see spirit. And what Essendon showed on the weekend was something that I haven't had for a long, long time, was a collective spirit on and off the ground. And what happened? Underdog, they get up and win. Young fellas have a great time. You know, cold heroes are already emerging in Tip and Wadi.
Yeah.
You know, Parrish is already recognised as a really good player. Zach Merritt jumped up. Zach Arakis is just, his leadership is really strong when it's been criticised. It was just one of those games of sport that you wish you were a part of. You know? And the singing of the song, there's more people in the centre on the outside, Jared. It was just a wonderful day.
And it was cleverly orchestrated by the coach, and this has the twofold effect, the players will believe more and more what John Worsfold tells them because he chose a way and that way worked. So they know how unlikely all of this is. They know that they're a pub team playing with kids who aren't ready and top-ups who are supposedly finished in around half the team that's left. But he's given them a plan, they executed it and they won. Well, he'll give them another plan in a few weeks' time and they'll believe, whether it happens or not, they'll believe that they can execute it and win. And the value of it happening in round 2 rather than having to wait until round 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 when they start anything, I don't know whether this is going to happen or not, is they will win now from time to time during the season. This will not be a one-off. They'll probably win their 4 or 5 games rather than just being that ghost team who drift through the year. There were plenty to choose from on the losing front as well, but your doomsday scenario swayed me. The doomsday scenario was that the Dockers would lose, and the question now is how far has Fremantle fallen?
I hear all the commentary and all the noise.
They've disappointed over the first couple of weeks. They were one of the premiership favourites, Jono, and they've got a lot of work to do.
Look, next week will determine, I think, their season pretty much.
With 0-2, I've been in bigger holes than this. We'll work through. We won't be intimidated into what other people think. That's not the way we roll.
Only we could have been the other side of that door to have a listen to what would have been said.
Yeah, we said they're disappointed. We're certainly not bowed. Thought there was some good fight. Understand our members and fans and be disappointed, but no one's more disappointed than the senior coach and the senior players.
So they've lost 6 of their past 8 now. What do you think this is?
Oh, these are the kind of answers that get me in trouble. I think Ross Lyon's delegated too much. He's brought in, this is a sweeping statement, I reckon he's delegated too much. I thought he's brought in Hale and Guerra and others. You've got to score more, you've got to move the ball quicker. We just have to, Ross, and I think Ross has decided that, okay, we might do that. I think Ross will grab back his team and game plan and tighten it back up and say, righto, I'm going to play the street fight again. While the rest of now, whether that's the right thing or wrong thing to do, it's certainly out of whack the offence v defence. 2 consecutive 100 points ago. They don't give that up. They've given up about 2 in Ross's coaching career. So that's not working, and they're not moving the ball well enough, and there's question marks already about Pav and Taberner. You know, really good teams. It's really funny, they had them last year and they finished 3rd. They finished on top of the ladder. They got them again. But, you know, Pav just looks slow. You know why? Because he's 34. He's not 25, so he looks slow. We watch all these other games and the ball's going in and loud and everyone's leading and diving and crunching, and you watch Fremantle and that zigzaggy stuff, and, you know, it looks pedestrian. Whether the new game style, as Paul Chapman wrote about in the Herald Sun on Saturday, it was a really interesting column by Chappie. But as Rossi said after the game, they got 6 goals out of the midfield, out of the centre breaks. Is that rules? That's not rules. That's just bad work rate. That's just bad attitude. They're on a highway to hell at the moment, and they got West Coast over there on Saturday night, who won't take any prisoners. They're in a spot, and it'll be interesting to see if they can fight their way out of it.
West Coast and North Melbourne. My view is we'd know at the end of round 4. And we will, because there's no getting back from 0-4, so they've got to stop it right now.
Ross will stare down his players this week and challenge them, and I mean that, and challenge them to get back to what he believes is the best way to play football. And
I think that's the most interesting part, is if they have embarked on the path of retooling for what this might look like in the near and the medium future, which is what he's obliged to do given the contract that he's signed with them. Can you flinch after 2 rounds? They kicked 100 points.
Yeah, no, they did. Ross is obliged to do nothing. Ross is obliged to win games of football for Fremantle. He has said that ad nauseum.
You've got to set them up to win the whole thing.
And win close. Anyway, we'll find out what happens.
And an honourable mention in the losing barrel to Richmond. For as long as we have sat at a desk together, Robbo, we have pondered how do Richmond people keep fronting up. And when I got to the car on Friday night, I'm thinking, how do Richmond people do it?
Yeah, I don't know how. It's a really
They are serial offenders. They are the worst time managers.
The only people who like it,
memory in football.
The only people who like it are the Swan Street licensees. Because everyone leaves the ground and goes down to Swan Street and drinks themselves stupid to forget about the pain. Because, unfortunately for Richmond, when people say it's Richmond again, people just nod their head. They don't really know what it means, but they just nod their head and go, yeah, it is. They've stuffed up again. And everyone goes, oh, righto, yeah, Richmond. It's got to be frustrating for Damien Hardwick. I mean, that's a simple thing to say, but...
And it's undermining for their ambitions.
Right now, people are laughing at their football club, and that happens because you're Richmond, but we laugh at Richmond because Richmond, I believe, is a strong club. They haven't had a lot of success, but they're a big club, so they get laughed at. Their captain's been ripped apart. This club's getting attacked on a lot of areas. They either stand up and do something about it, or sit there and just be still laughed at and still get attacked.
Yeah. So on the couch next, Richmond's 7 Deadly Sins, which has a familiar ring to it. Remember when Roosie said it was the worst
47 seconds in the history of the game.
And Jack Riewoldt will be here tomorrow night to walk us through a little bit of what happened in the review today. That's the losing. Then, of course, there's the winning. And up next, we'll ask Nathan Buckley what the Pies did right in the last 6 minutes of that game to peg back a 17-point deficit and pull off the most unlikely victory. Well, the Cats went to Canberra and got beaten by the Giants to square their ledger.
This program brought to you by Bet Live from Sportsbet. Chemist Warehouse, home of real brands and real savings every day. Harvey Norman, shop with confidence online, mobile and at your local store. Jeep, don't hold back. And McDonald's, cheering for footy's little wins. Close Shave, brought to you by Gillette Pro Glide, available at Chemist Warehouse.
Lost on away, is that deliberate? It is! One last roll on the ice.
Sets it up at the top of the square, Pendlebury through his hands. Rodney!
Preposterous! Ludicrous! Outrageous! Egregious! What the bloody hell's going on?
Close Shave, brought to you by Gillette Pro Glide, available at Chemist Warehouse.
4 seconds makes a big difference. Nathan Buckley, welcome.
How are you, mate? This is your thesaurus you were using. Is that right? Egregious.
Deliver that.
What does
Chris
that
Scott,
mean?
hello.
Hi, Jared. How are
Did you know all those words?
Yeah, of
Chris?
course. St Kevin's education.
Is there a surge of adrenaline in the box when that happens?
I thought I was checking to see it wasn't going to be touched,
Yep.
so I hadn't accepted that it was a goal at that point. But yeah, it was. I mean, we came from the clouds in that last 5 in particular, but when Jack Riewoldt kicked the goal with 12 minutes of play, or probably 8 minutes on the clock, but there ended up being 12 minutes of play from that point, we played some pretty good footy. So it was hard to reconcile that at the time because you're in the moment, but yeah, we had to have everything go our way to get the result.
When you win like self-belief, you said after the game, we won because we played every minute of the game. How does that aid you going forward talking to the players?
Well, we went through a review today, and I sat here last week talking about the review of the Sydney game, and I think any time you sit down to review, you want to take the lessons from it, good, bad or indifferent, and then you want to sell the way forward. The players and even the coaches need to have that belief of what the next step forward is. So we just did the same thing today, and there was a good jolt for belief and the capacity just to stay with it long enough to take your chances when it came. But the games, we played that last bit of play, you do that 100 times again and you might not get that result. So we understand that was against the odds, that last play, but we had to do a lot of things right to put ourselves in that position.
So just before we go through that, I'm interested in the idea, Chris, of all the planning and strategy that goes on around the last couple of minutes of a thriller and then the chaos that clearly sets in, and Damien Hardwick labelled it unintelligent footy, is how much work do you put into trying to control those couple of minutes, and how much do you have to accept that there is just a certain madness that will run its course?
Well, I think from a coaching perspective, if you think you can control those situations, then you will go mad. So there's a lot of work that goes into preparing the players for that moment. But I think the reason we love the champions in general is because they stand up in the big moments. And when the heat's on, they just know what to do. But I don't think there's a player in the competition that hasn't made a mistake in the big moment. The really good ones are the ones that learn from it and adjust accordingly. And the coaches are the same. I know exactly how Damien Hardwick would feel. I know how he'd feel when he probably woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, going through every play in the last 5 minutes in his head and blaming himself completely for what happened. The reality is he didn't have total control over the situation, but he needs to assert himself this week and make sure that those mistakes don't happen again.
Is it worrying if that happens and there's one mistake? You can say, okay, there was one mistake. But when there's a range of mistakes, how does the coaches then feel? Like there was a lot of people are at fault. It wasn't McIntosh should have gone short to Basher Hooley, and he didn't. Bad. Vickery should have kicked the goal. Bad. There was no organisation here. Bad by 4 or 5 people. When it blows up like that, is it a breakdown between the coach, the leaders? It's not getting through at training, or what's the solution?
Oh, look, it's a combination of things. But the reality is, I think for us, all 18 coaches take total responsibility when the game plan's not executed or when in the heat of the moment there are errors made. But when you dig down a little bit deeper, there are skill execution issues that can't really be influenced by the coach in the heat of the moment. Obviously your pre-season, your training does influence that, but in the heat of the moment skill execution can kind of be excused a little bit. But structural and tactical issues are the ones from a coaching perspective that you hold most dear.
Was it deliberate out of bounds? Was it the right call? Hat off that you were playing in the game? The handball?
Yeah, it was consistent with what we've seen for the first couple of rounds and through the NAB. And I'm interested, what Richmond would think about that. I think Damien was asked after the game and said no, that was there. I mean, in the end, we had a player that was coming and putting pressure on Vlosten at the time. I mean, they're only little things, but we highlighted that today and said, well, if you hadn't have done that, then Vlosten has another second more to make a decision and might be able just to kick it out 60 metres still in, but you don't get that call. So there's so many little things that come into play. Some you're in control of and you should have schooled and drilled and coached, and others that you can't script. So that's the game.
So say in the last 6 minutes where the 3 goals came, did you do a whole sequence of things right? Were you able to identify, did they do 50 things right? What was most admirable was that they clearly still believed that they could win and they pushed every time they got the ball to open up that opportunity.
Yeah, I think that was the thing that we did best, and that wasn't anything to do with the coach's box. That was each of the players individually and the leadership within it, just to say, so we're now 17 points down, there's 8 minutes on the clock, there's still plenty of time to kick goals if we need to, but we need to press the button to go. We know that this and this is what we've discussed, and a couple of messages come out to reaffirm that from the runner. Potentially, the opposition puts a number back, which might make some of the things you're trying to do a little bit easier. And we're not playing in a vacuum. Richmond had to provide us with some of those opportunities and they could have taken some away, as we could have earlier in the game, but that's the game of footy.
So the last play, which we show now, is Darcy Moore, is that the right thing?
Yeah, and talking to Darcy today, he said he was 50-50. When he took his first step in, he still hadn't decided whether he was going to have a shot or whether he was going to have but when I actually talk through it, you'll understand why. Darcy's a smart kid. And he's thinking, I don't know if I can go off the line because the siren could go at any time, and I won't forgive myself if I go off the line and the siren goes as I'm about to kick it, and I only kick it to the top of the square and I don't take my shot. And he was thinking all of this as he was taking his first step. Ultimately, he made the right percentage decision, and as I said, I did think that if this goes to the top of the square, it's going to be almost impossible to kick a goal. and it was almost impossible.
Yeah. So just pop that up again. So Pendlebury's the flyer and Grundy's the crummer. We're not practicing that.
Like to say that was a cunning plan, but
that was the move by Pendlebury. I mean, he's a chat show himself, Pendlebury, on what he did on the night. Playing him back on the half back. Do you play him in the middle? Do you take him back out? He was tagged in the last quarter. Of everyone to get to this contest, it was the captain who got there first and nullified Richmond, Jack Riewoldt, from coming in over the back and knocking it through. Pendlebury got there of 35 players.
Well,
and you
I'll go with Scotty, who say the champions are the ones that just get it done in the moments. Now, 2 of the 5 players in that contest, when there's 36 players within 25 metres, basically, were Pendles and Jack Riewoldt. 2 blokes that it doesn't matter what they're playing or when or what the circumstances are. They want to be involved in the result. So Pendles just found a way to get up there.
First.
Jack Riewoldt found a way to be there. Other blokes will find a way not to be there. And in the end...
Who would you rather have?
No, but in the end, we were fortunate to get the result. But yeah, I could be sitting here very different if Jack Riewoldt might have just got his fist to it and had gone through for a point, and the game would have been over.
I spoke to Paul Roos today about the mentality of playing football today, and I asked him a question. Is it getting back to where you coaches, is it becoming really more important than strategy to motivate to get players over the line? Really poor the week before for whatever reason. They were really poor, but they were on Friday night. You guys go against Hawthorn, really strong, contested ball. Then you go to Canberra, and the contested ball numbers were down by 22, and it was gallant in the last quarter, but gallantry doesn't get you a lot. I'm sure you didn't say well played gallantry. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, it wasn't.
The mentality of football at the moment?
Yeah, it's a factor. It's a factor, but at least my philosophy on coaching is that that's not front and centre. Like effort plays a big part, but in professional sport, I kind of assume that everyone's trying as hard as they can.
But they do, but it doesn't seem to go to collective.
I think it speaks to what a fine line it is. There's 100% effort, and then there's just that little bit more that we love about Scott Pendlebury in the moment. We love about Joel Selwood when the game's really on the line. And we were outplayed through the middle of the ground in our game yesterday. And it was a good effort to come back, but there was a lot more to the game, or at least a lot more to us getting to that point in the last quarter than effort, in my view. There were some really specific structural things where we fell down that are easy to fix. Now, we'll work off the basis that our guys will do everything required in terms of effort and will next weekend. But unless you fix the stuff that really matters, then that stuff's at the margin.
So after the final siren, there's a long period of contemplation in your coach's box. Just give us a bit of an inkling about what is happening here as you contemplate defeat.
I haven't seen the footage, but it actually looks like those computer screens are blank. But I was looking at the stats, because in the last couple of minutes it was pretty tense. I wasn't right across the numbers, so we're in a different venue there at Canberra, and the setup in the box is a lot better to look at those things than it is down in the rooms. At the MCG we tend to go down to the rooms because we've got a pretty good setup there. But
with this time, you like to think that you have really open, dynamic conversation during the game, and for the most part you do, but often it's not as effective or efficient. But that time, the immediate reflection after the game is often just checking, so would it be right to assume that bang? And I think it's your coaching group coming together and saying, well, what are the key messages for the players? It's moving on to the next thing pretty quickly, isn't it?
Yeah,
How do you address that?
I think in that footage there I didn't say much, but I remember not long after that putting those questions to the coaches. Is it right to say, was this the situation? Did we get this right? In part it is to calm down a little bit. I try not to get in the players' faces when I'm emotional. I tend to take at least 24 hours before I make my assessment. But sometimes it's unavoidable, so you like to have as much information as you can before you put yourself in that moment.
You used to play for a team that intimidated the opposition. I felt watching the game, not that they were jumping out of the way or anything like that, but I felt that GWS exerted that much pressure on your players during that third quarter.
Yeah.
That I felt that the Geelong players were thinking they're coming. As soon as I got the ball, they were coming, and other than Mumford's tackle, there was other really physical contact by GWS.
Yeah, their pressure was pretty good. That third quarter in particular, we got beaten around the ball, which meant the ball was in our back end a lot, and they had a lot of pressure on us. It was hard to move the ball. So, I accept that the team that I played in, your example, was a pretty physical team. But I don't think that was what intimidated opposition teams. I think they were more concerned about how well the team played.
I think it was one aspect of it. I think when a good team comes together, they have a lot of... You said after the game, the stats were poor. Which stat were you most heard about? Clearances 39-26 or the contested possessions 148-126?
Oh, the two go hand in hand. Generally, if you get smashed in the contested ball, especially pre-clearance, then you're going to get smashed in the clearances as well. And you combine that, we were minus 13 free kicks, which count to contested possession as well. So it was really around the heat of the contest where we were beaten. I thought it was their method. I gave Shane Mumford coach's votes. I thought, not because he was physical, and physical presence is important, but it was more the way he played around the ball, the way he helped his teammates get first use of the ball rather than a couple of contested moments.
So this was Dermot Brereton's assessment of Mumford and what he did to Geelong.
Shane Mumford steamrolled them today. Now, was he the best player on the ground? Probably not. Was he the most effective? Quite possibly so. I won't say he put the fear of God in him. He knocked a few over, though, and he made paths and he cleared out everything for them. How will Chris Scott address Shane Mumford's manhandling of his team today?
Well, I can't say I'll know how Scotty will address it, but that would be eating away at him. There was a man, as you're saying, out on the field that intimidated his team.
In the moment, though, that's what it felt like. I'll be honest. Mumford's just done a job on Geelong. Their question, how will you handle it? Are they overplaying it?
Well, he played well. That's the bottom line. I mean, even Lynchy would remember Jonathan Brown was a really tough physical player, so was Lynchy. But he didn't intimidate them because he belted them behind the ball or he knocked one over every now and again. He intimidated them because he was so good in the contest and because he won the ball on his own merits. And Mumford, aside from these incidents, I think it's doing him a discredit to say he was just a physical presence and he's just a brute. He played exceptionally well. Yeah. His work off the ball was very good. He played a really smart game. I thought Scully was probably the best player on the ground, but Mumford was bloody close. But it wasn't because he ran through Mitch Duncan when he was in a vulnerable position.
Is there a place for physical intimidation in the way the game is right now?
Yeah, I think there is. But generally that comes in the form of going harder at the pill. There's nearly every possible legislation that is put into place that you can't actually do anything other than, and even now, you can't actually go hard at the pill without thinking about where the opposition is, where their heads may be. So it's harder, but there's still, if you're a ball player and you make the ball your focus and you go hard at it, I think that's intimidation of its own.
Last one specific to the game is Geelong might have had the game won in 20 minutes was the way that you'd started. I think it was 1-5 and 2 out of bounds. And 5 of them, I'm sure the players involved would like their time again to make sure. When you fritter away chances like that, is there a sense of dread that goes along with that? It was, God, we've absolutely dominated this. We've got not much to show for it.
Is this a Geelong supporter asking? Or
So you called me for the first time this year, so that's fair.
Round 2.
I'll stand vacant behind my question.
We needed to get that one out.
It's funny, like Shane Kirson's one of the most skillful players on our list, and he kicked it out on the full from a position where I don't think he could do it if he tried. And when you go into the game, we were genuinely of the view that this was a 50-50 game. We watched GWS play through the pre-season. We thought the round 1 game against Melbourne was an aberration. They're going to be a very strong team. We went in thinking we had to play our best to get it done. So when you have the momentum and the game's being played the way we wanted it to be played in the first quarter, and you go in, I think we went in down at quarter time. yeah, the alarm bells ring a little bit, because you know at some point a team of that quality, and they are a quality team. I think the rest of the football world's a little bit behind the Gold Coast and GWS. So a team of that quality still managed to have their noses in front of quarter time when everything's going against them. You know, at some point they're going to have their time. So we talked a little bit about, you know, what we needed to do if they did get the momentum, but we just didn't execute anywhere near well enough.
You just mentioned free kicks. Do you know that you're minus 17 differential after 2 games?
See, if I'd asked that, Buck, you could have called me out, absolutely.
And do you know, Collingwood are number 1 with a plus 14. So your team, after 2 games,
I knew something didn't
has
feel right.
given away 31. You're separating by 31 free kicks.
Yeah, no, we've got a problem.
What is it?
We give away way too many free kicks and we don't get enough. We've got 10 free kicks on the weekend. Now, that's not an umpiring problem. That's a Geelong Football Club problem. 10 free kicks in a game of footy.
And they're running at each other from all angles, crashing into each other. It's not right.
We've been 18th 3 years running on free kick differential.
And you won.
Free kick differential. So I don't know how many we've given away. So we're plus.
Your differential is plus 14, and Geelong's.
Can I tell you, out of all the stats available, that's the last one that I'm actually looking at.
I
obviously have at some point. If
I think it speaks to how every coach thinks they're hard done by.
Yeah. Well, I would if I was separated by 31. I'd be feeling.
But in all seriousness, it's you can stick your head in the sand and say this is not fair. This is beyond our control. Or you can take responsibility and say, and it's over time with us. It's not 1 game or 2 games. It's over a period of years. We have a player who has got the most free kicks in the competition over the last couple of years. So if you strip him out, we are bad, and that's either we haven't got to the bottom of it. To be frank, we're either there's no pattern, there's no particular free kick. We're either.
Have you checked this with the umpires? It's not high. It's in the back or. Hands in the back, or
and it wasn't my intention to talk about it tonight. We've had those discussions, and there's no clear pattern. There's nothing they can point to, but the stats don't lie.
No, they don't.
If you are that poor in the free kick differential, then you've got 2 choices. You can blame the umpire and say, "Woe was me," or you can take responsibility and try to get to the bottom of it.
Do you want to ask your coaching question from Hawthorn West Coast?
Yeah, this is on behalf of me and everyone else watching this game. I did a piece on the years, why did we not tag Sam Mitchell? Everyone said no. He's had 36 and another 36. Why would, it's hard for you to talk about Adam Simpson, why would a coach allow Josh Gibson to have 44 and Sam Mitchell 36 and leave him alone? Why? How does that play out, Bucks? Because I want to know the reason, so everyone at home and go on the go and say, oh, now we know why we're not making someone accountable for either of them.
The tagging hasn't gone from the game altogether, but it is harder to do because the gap between the best and worst players in sides is smaller, I think, than it's ever been. So, and I think Adam actually said straight after the game about Gibson in particular, said, well, if we put a couple of forwards in the stoppage because we're getting smashed at stoppage, and then that frees up the defender, and they're a really strong back six. They don't get sucked up in the ball, and I think they had 150 more uncontested possessions, so they have to go somewhere. And Mitchell's not handballing it himself. So in the end, they shared the ball really well, and that's probably what they do. That's definitely what they do better than any team in the comp, is possess the pill and look after it, force the opposition to defend. And you can move a body to put it in one spot, but it frees up another. It might be Birchall, it might be Isaac Smith.
Sorry to cut you off, but if you're getting beaten, is it too simplistic to say, let's all just go man on man and let's get some competition, some one-on-one going here? At least don't let Gibson just get free ball.
No, it's an option. I haven't watched the game. I've watched a little bit of it, but their game was around the same time as ours.
Yeah, it was.
The bits I've seen suggest that Hawthorn were just smashing them around the ball. So they controlled the ball in the first quarter. So it's kind of, do we try to change what's happening in the game, or do we try to focus on the individuals? Now, Gibson got the ball in the first quarter as well, but the problem was around the ball. So I would have thought, Simo said, our priority is fixing what's happening around the ball. But a team like Hawthorn, if you try to fix one part, they exploit you in another part.
It's an amazing game, isn't it?
West Coast have done a great job in playing their system. Like, they played in the grand final last year. They didn't lose too many games playing their system. Now, Hawthorn were able to exploit it this week, and they probably did it in the grand final to an extent as well. But the chess game will continue the next time they play. And I suspect that Simo might do a few things slightly differently, but Clarko will be trying to anticipate them as well. It's a little bit more nuanced than just stop Mitchell, stop Gibson.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Hey, thanks a lot.
Thanks. Excellent. Keep me honest. Good man. Nathan Buckley and Chris Scott with us on AFL 360. No. Coach's Night continues on Couch because Don Pike is here. He's come over from Adelaide to talk with Jared, Jason, Brownie and King.
Hallelujah, I'm free. Quitting your team, hold on to me. It's never enough, never complete. Tell me the blue, expect me to lose.
They stand and applaud at Etihad Stadium here. Just a great champion of the game.
Now it's not impossible from here. Surely not. The Texans kicked it. Here's Gibson, the defender. Is he a goal kicker? He can do it all. Oh, there's a taste of what's to come.
Oh, the big mama fight. Long driving. Oh,
Dana out of nowhere. What a mark down there by Jack.
Play goes. Ablett looking for the early one for the Suns. What a start.
And a little old Irish temper is starting to flare here at Etihad.
one mark. Hasn't happened. Still a chances of a goal. It is. The Pies are in front.
A massive momentum changer in the history of the Essendon Football Club.
The pick of some great action. The 2-minute scramble is based entirely in the showdown, Robbo.
I'll run this segment.
Okay.
Righto. 2-minute showdown. 2 minutes. 2-minute scramble. Jared.
Yes.
What did Saturday mean for the Crows?
It means they haven't gone backwards. That much I'm certain of.
You can tick
Their
that
ball
off.
movement was scintillating. Their defence is utterly sound, and I was particularly taken by Lever and Laird. Laird was terrific.
Laird was almost All-Australian last year.
Yeah, their attack is absolutely ominous. And not only the tools, but every time I went forward, it looked like Betts was going to create something, and it was electric when he was around it. But Millerer, what a little star he is.
Got him in my
Start of his career, yeah. So you couldn't deny what they did. It was quite brilliant and stamps them. That's a marker for them.
Do you know how I use the word tippity footy? They play tippity footy.
It was good.
They move the ball so quick.
What did it mean for Port Adelaide?
Oh, drama. Have you discarded your Port Adelaide dooney yet? You put it on the wagon last week.
No.
How are you situated now?
They're going to have to sort their defence out.
We've got a rift.
You cannot be that disorganised.
We've got a rift, haven't we, between you and Port Adelaide? You've lost your love already.
I won't jump off.
Yes, you will. You're off already.
But it's on them now. It's not me, it's them.
That was as disappointing a performance as we've seen under Kenny Hinkley.
So their running and their ball movement is not a point of difference anymore.
It's not. No.
And their defence, they are either pressing too far and too hard, which I suspect is what's going on, or they don't work back the other way.
Right, my show. What was your maiden showdown like?
I loved it.
Did you?
Yeah, it had the feel of a major national sporting event. The flow of people to the ground, and you go over the bridge, and it was an Adelaide home game, so they had cutouts of all the players on the pillars as you made your way in, and they booed Port Adelaide when they went out. When I go back on Friday night, they'll be roaring for Port Adelaide. They booed, and there was silence for their goals, and the Crows fans, they were terrific.
Who'd you hang with, the Crows or Cochin?
No, just at the ABC on Saturday.
Okay.
It was great.
Lucky.
If you can, you should. It's Players' Night tomorrow night. Jack Revolt and Jordan Lewis central to two of the key events of the weekend.
Over the head of Hawkins, he knew it was coming though. Ducks out the back. Can he get onto the ball? No, just boots it for his life. For his life, Tommy Hawkins.
Off the ground from 60 metres out. They're bouncing. It's gone through. Unbelievable goal.
He's kicked a droppy from outside 50.
It was a hit and hope.
It's It's hard to imagine that won't end up as a Skull of the Year. We have part of our Maddie's Vision auction, Robbo. We're auctioning Nick Revolt, Captain Courageous, which is to mark his 300th game, signed lithograph. It's number 12 of 112, and you can go and bid on this at foxfooty.com.au/AFL360, our own website. So that will close 5 p.m. Thursday. We'll have the winner for you as the week goes on.
And you'll deliver it to their house?
I thought
in Melbourne.
You're our man for that.
No way, Jared. I'm going to bring you out of your shell.
Hey, do you know anything about Logie's etiquette?
No.
Do you think Carl will drink with us?
Go on. You want it. You want to tell everyone.
Well, you have done it. The family came out and voted. Amazing.
We got nominated for Logie. Just say it. You've been wanting to say it. Spend all
Good night, Robbo.
G'day, Carl.
Let's sit on the couch with Jared Healy.